Top 5 coaches heat meter, volume, whatever. I've lost count. But we're down to the last 2 weeks of the season, and there's some pretty big AD news this week, so I thought I would do this again. Number 5. Do you mind if I sing the jingle, guys? Be cool about fire safety. This is Jimbo Fisher, not going anywhere, but he would be wise to take the fire safety course, which in this instance is rehaul your overall offensive staff. You know who did this? And I have to credit Pat Forty in his column this week mentioned this. Brian Kelly did this at Notre Dame. They went 4-8. And he was in jeopardy of losing that job because Notre Dame, when you fail, they don't let you stay around for that long. And he is now the all-time winningest coach in that program because he changed almost everything that he did there and has now relayed that into LSU and is doing the same thing there and is being successful. So I would say the fire safety course taught by Brian Kelly, again, also a guy who's not, everybody's buddy like Jimbo's not. Like, you can win if you just follow the advice of other people.
Was Brian Kelly coming off the number 1 recruiting class of all time?
No,
he wasn't. That's where Jimbo's biggest problem lies, is all of the build-up and, the expectations and, all that comes with that. It's obviously been a very disappointing season. I mean, they're basically an afterthought in so many ways at this point. And look, most schools are, I guess, when you start getting down to conference championship races and, the CFP and all of that. But that'll reignite some with bowl games and everybody getting one final opportunity. But yeah, for A&M, I mean, that's not even in the cards. So it's like, man, you really have to wait till next season, basically, and they'll create some optimism, I'm sure, in the offseason, maybe make a coaching change or whatever and sign another really good class. But man, what an interesting situation that the Aggies find themselves in due to just the way that contract was set up. I mean, that's the thing. If it was just a normal contract or relatively normal contract, you'd probably be fine. But they just guaranteed so much with it that it's kind of rocking a hard place.
All right, one of the things that I was thinking about, this is a random deal. They just lost Anthony Hill, as high level as you can get. Their class right now has only 11 commitments, although 8 of them are 4-star, 7 4-star. It's like I haven't even heard about their recruiting class this year.
Yeah, well, and look, they're going to probably make a mad dash and get up higher numbers, but we'll see. Number 4.
Can anyone play quarterback?
Is it hot in here or is it just me? This guy has dropped down the list. Scott Satterfield. Now, he's got a couple weeks here that will help him or hurt him. But if he, say he finishes, right now they're 6-4. If they finish 7-5, 8-4, you can't really do anything about it. If they get embarrassed these last 2 weeks and go 6-6, then maybe it starts back up. But if he goes 7-5, I think you're going to have a hard time getting rid of Scott Satterfield as much as you may not want to keep him there.
Yeah, I have no idea what the pulse is here. I know it was a bit rapid in the early part of the season, and then I don't know. I just kind of lost touch with the whole thing as they went about their merry way, and he won some games and kind of seemingly cooled off. I know they lost to Clemson now, so not really a ton of shame in that necessarily. No, Malik Cunningham's been banged up too, but I have no idea on what the motivations are right now in Louisville and how much he's on a hot seat, but he was definitely one of those guys we talked about a lot early on.
Number 3, check the exits. David Shaw.
What?
There is some scuttlebutt around David Shaw right now in Stanford, and I don't think this is imminent, and I don't think it's going to happen this year, but they've not been good for a few years.
Yeah, it's been a while.
And nobody goes, and look, I could have also swapped this out for the other Bay Area team and put Justin Wilcox in here at Cal, because the entire Bay Area, when it comes to major college football, is as moribund as you can imagine. Mm-hmm. Attendance is terrible. The games are meaningless to them because the teams aren't good. And these aren't teams that, I'm not talking about teams that have been classically bad. I'm not talking about Florida Atlantic here. I'm talking about Stanford and Cal, who have great histories when you look back at it. There's great players that have played at both schools. There have been great classic games. And right now, as they head into their rivalry game coming up here, who among the fan base cares other than beating the other one? And there's not people going. So I do think that Stanford's going to start looking at David Shaw. And even though this isn't on a graphic, Cal's going to start looking at Justin Wilcox.
He had a run there boy, did David Shaw after Harbaugh left, and maybe he set the table. 11, 12, 11, 8, 12, 10, 9, 9 wins each year.
Yeah, and then what happened in the last
then,
four?
4 and 8, 4 and 2, 3 and 9, and now this year 3 and 7.
Yeah.
It's kind of dropped off the cliff.
It's not, you said what? And it's like, yeah, if this was 2016, then you go, oh, no way. But I mean, maybe even a couple years back you would have said that. But I mean, yeah, they haven't even made a bowl game in 4 years. And I know some of that's COVID, and they got hit harder probably than anybody because just the way they do things out there. But yeah, I mean, they've been kind of irrelevant. I mean, not kind of, but they've been pretty irrelevant the last few years.
And almost forgot David Shaw was still at Stanford, but man.
And look, there are academic challenges there recruiting-wise, but they've navigated it in the past. I mean, you're Stanford. You can get almost every super smart football player in the country if you want to.
And to be fair, they did get, like Emmitt Smith's kid got hurt, and and he was a really good player for them. So they've dealt with some other stuff too. But yeah, I mean, the whole like magic of him, like, is he going to jump to the NFL? It's like, is he going to last at Stanford? Maybe he'll need to because he might not have a choice. But yeah, I'm curious to see about this one.
All right, number 2. Alert the fire brigade. I heard that in a movie one time. I thought it was funny. Tom Allen started 3-0. They are now 3-7 at Indiana.
That guy's nuts.
Again, another reason why you might need to alert the fire brigade, because they're drowning in Indiana right now. And while he had a couple good seasons and there was some fire around, about him, now I just think it's evident that they might have to do something. I mean, you lose 7 straight, maybe on the way to losing 9 straight to end the season. That's not good.
Was his year that they got hot, the COVID year? Was that when Indiana, or was it the year after that? Because they had a year where they kind of seemed they had a quarterback that was pretty good.
Yeah, Michael Penix.
Yeah, who's now at Washington.
Yeah, I mean, they had Michael Penix. Now they don't. He's at Washington, and Washington's 8-2. So
$20 million buyout.
Yeah. So.
Well, that might impede things. I don't know how hardcore they are about football at Indiana. I know it's not their number one, but yeah.
They've not been doing good with their number one lately.
No,
either.
They're not. Yeah, it's true. But yeah, I mean, I don't know what the desire is for success there in that program. But yeah, I could see this one, happening relatively sooner rather than later. And yeah, Michael Penix was a dude for them and has proven to be pretty good. I mean, Washington has really great moments and had some other moments that aren't as good, but he's been very entertaining and very good for the Huskies.
Yeah. Indianapolis star at $20 million if he's fired before December of 2023.
Yeah. So maybe they ride it out for another year and see what happens. But number 1, Great Chicago Fire of 1871 hot.
Craig just caught the fly.
That's awesome. There we go. But Great Chicago Fire of 1871 hot. That fire was started by a cow. This one is started by the athletic director getting terminated by West Virginia this week. Neal Brown. I cannot imagine a scenario, and especially after talking to West Virginia people, where the new AD comes in and goes, "Don't worry about it, you're okay." Or that the new AD comes in without being told, your first job is to fire the old football coach and hire a new
He knew that during the interview process.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't think there's going to be anything because I think one of the first questions is going to be, who would you hire as a football coach and why? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I think this one's pretty clear with the AD out the door. And the just lack of enjoyment that there seems to be around West Virginia football. How about Pat McAfee saying he hadn't been in contact with anybody from there basically, during the Neal Brown era? I mean, he said as much in a tweet I saw yesterday of I don't talk to anybody there anymore. I haven't talked to anybody in a really long time, but I think this is a good move talking about Lions being gone. What does that tell you?
Well, I mean,
he's far and away your biggest star. He's not the best player you've ever had, but he's far and away your biggest star, especially right now. And to not have a relationship with Pat effing McAfee and is the West Virginia program and football coach, that's insane, dude. That is inexcusable. If Baylor had a star of that caliber, a former player, and we weren't making note of that or we were aware that they didn't have any kind of relationship, I would be roasting their butts on this show. But I don't know what's behind that, but man, that'd be a good start is get the former players involved and your biggest star.
Sometimes, yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you. But sometimes when coaches come in, we saw that with what Callahan did at Nebraska. I don't know, but they just for some reason
worked
think
out
it's
well.
better.
Yeah.
Good idea.
That they feel like they want to separate themselves rather than embrace it. I don't know if it's an ego thing or not, and it hardly ever works.
The biggest thing is you should do as a coach is reach out and be like, look, you got to tell me about when it was good.
Yeah.
Like, what are the best things? And then try to water that lawn.
Yeah.
But they, sometimes they don't.
Garrett Ross has a basketball game tonight, the women, right? Also